The wind came first, sharp and dry, the kind that rakes the prairie raw and leaves grit between your teeth. Then the sky split wide open. Lightning cracked somewhere beyond the ridge, lighting the whole valley like a match held to dark paper. I pulled my hat down tighter, eyes on the horizon, but my gut already knew what storm was coming. Wasn't just with me. Father was waiting for me in the big house. Lamplight burning behind his study window. Jedediah Callahan never lit lamps this late unless trouble was brewing. I tied my gelding to the rail and took my time up the porch steps, letting the creak of wood and the moan of the wind announce me. It didn't matter. He'd hear me coming long before I reached his door. That man lived on control, and control meant never being inside. Cigar smoke hit me first, heavy and bitter, curling slow in the stale air. My father sat behind the big oak desk like a judge waiting on a sentence to land. His boots were polished, hat off but close enough to grab. He didn't look up until the door clicked shut behind your late, he said. I shrugged out of my coat and hung it over the rack. Yusena's jaw tightened, a muscle jumping once. Then he slid an envelope across the desk. Thick paper. Edges crisp. My stomach went, call, you'll marry Evelyn Hart come Saturday. Just like that. No preamble. No explanation. Just a decree. I stared at the envelope but didn't touch it. I'm sorry, what? He leaned back in his chair, smoke drifting from the cigar clamped in his teeth. You heard me? Hart girl's father owes me near half a section's worth of cattle and cash he can't pay. I'm taking land instead, but the deal works cleaner if you're tied to her. She's a person, not a deed. She's a means to secure Callahan blood on more acres. His voice was granite, cold and old. Don't mistake this for negotiation, Wade. Heat flared in my chest, but I swallowed it down. Years of learning the hard way taught me rage didn't win with Jedediah Callahan. It just gave him something to break. I turned for the door. I'll think about it. You'll do more than think. His voice followed, low and dangerous. You'll do as I say Saturday. I stepped into the hall before the weight of his stare could pin me down again. My boots echoed on the wide planks of the house I'd grown up in. Proud house, cruel house. Outside, the storm let loose at last. Rain came sideways, stinging my face as I crossed the yard. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't, every time I shut my eyes. All I saw was my father's face and the Hart girl I barely remembered. Dark hair. I thought, in some stubborn set to her chin, at a county fair years ago. I'd been 20 then, all easy grins and restless blood. She'd looked right past me, not impressed. Now she was supposed to be mine. Morning brought no peace. Just mud and gray skies. I worked the cattle pens hard, sweat mixing with rain, trying to burn off the anger before it turned mean. The ranch hands gave me wide berth. Folks had long memories here. Everyone knew when the boss's son was simmering. By noon the rain broke, and with it came a wagon rolling slow down the lane. I knew it before I saw the Crest Harts Bay mare hitched up, harness patched in 3 places. Behind the reins sat a man too thin for the seat, and a woman straight-backed beside him. Evelyn, she'd grown into her face. Cheekbones cut sharp, eyes the color of a storm sky right before it bursts. She stepped down herself, boots sinking into the wet yard, dress hemmed dark with mud but no complaint on her lips. She looked at me and didn't look away. Wade Callahan, she said, voice steady. I tipped my hat out of reflex. Miss Hart. My father came out then, all smiles that never reached his eyes. He and Hart Sr. disappeared into the house, papers to sign, deals to settle. Evelyn stayed where she was, spine stiff, hands clasped tight before her. You know about this? I asked. She nodded once. You want it? Her mouth twitched like she almost laughed. Does it matter? Something in my chest shifted at that. Not sympathy exactly, but recognition. We were both being traded tonight. I looked past her to the hills, wide and raw under a pale sky. Guess not, the week blurred after that. Preparations none of us wanted but couldn't stop. My father ordered the preacher. Word spread faster than prairie fire. By Friday, the whole damn county seemed to know Wade Callahan was taking a bride he hadn't chosen. Saturday dawned heavy and close, like the land itself was holding its breath. The little clapboard church on the ridge, filled with neighbors and curiosity seekers. I stood up front, boots polished but throat dry, hands sweating despite the cool breeze through the open windows. Then the doors swung wide, and she came in. Evelyn, Hart in gray, not white. Gray like storm clouds, like defiance. Simple dress, but it fit her shoulders proud and sure. She walked steady, each step measured. Eyes locked on mine. Not meek, not broken. Something inside me braced and cracked at once. The vows were quick. My mouth said the words, though my brain stumbled to catch them. Her hands slid into mine, small, cool, trembling only once before going still. And when I lifted her veil, close enough to smell rain and wild sage, I saw her properly for the first time, beautiful. Yes, but with a steel that matched my own. Hello? Husband? She whispered. It cut deeper than a shout. We rode back to Callahan land under a sky clearing at last. My father threw a dinner fit for a treaty signing, not a wedding. Men drank hard. Women whispered. Evelyn sat straight and silent beside me until it was done. Later, I walked her to the room across from mine. She carried one battered trunk and a satchel. That was all. She didn't wait for me to open the door, just slipped inside and turned once, eyes unreadable. Thank you, she said softly. For what? For not pretending this is something it's not? Then she shut the door and left me in the hall with my heartbeat and 100 questions. Sleep didn't come easy. Every creak of floorboard across the hall made my blood jump. I told myself it was anger at my father, at fate, at being shackled, but deep down, I knew better. It was her. The quiet strength, the way she'd looked right through me and seen. What? A prisoner, same as her? Next morning, before sunup, I found her in the kitchen. She'd spread ranch ledgers across the table, brow furrowed, fingers tracing columns of numbers. You always work this early? I asked, she startled, then smoothed her face quick. Can't fix a mess without knowing what it is. I poured coffee, leaned on the counter. Careful. My father doesn't like people touching his books. Her mouth curved, not quite a smile. Then he shouldn't have married me into them. That was the first spark of something dangerous. Not hate, not quite admiration. But alive, I wanted to ask why she'd said yes, but the question stuck. She didn't look fragile. She looked like someone who'd made a hard bargain to survive. And God help me, I respected it. Outside, the ranch stirred awake, men saddling horses, dogs barking at the dawn. Inside, silence stretched taut between us until the kitchen door banged open and a ranch hand stuck his head in. Wade, he said, pale under his hat. Riders coming, fast. I set my mug down and followed him out. 3 men on horseback tore across the yard, dust and early light swirling around them. They weren't neighbors. Guns rode easy on their hips, too easy. I felt Evelyn come up behind me, close enough her skirt brushed my boot. The lead rider scarred down his cheek. Eyes mean and hungry pulled up sharp. Morning, he drawled. Heard there's a Hart girl here? I shifted just enough to block his view of her. Who's asking? He smiled without warmth. Debt collector. Her daddy's IOUs landed in my hands. Time to settle accounts. My father wasn't anywhere in sight. Typical. Debt's with me now, I said. Funny, the man said, spitting into the dirt. Paper says otherwise. Behind me, I felt Evelyn go still as a deer before the shot. Turn around and ride out, I said. He leaned forward. Or what? The wind shifted, bringing the scent of dust and horses in trouble. My hand hovered near my Colt. The yard was quiet, but for the creak of saddles and a crow calling. Somewhere beyond the barn. And just like that, the storm broke again. Only this time it had teeth. The scarred man's grin widened when my thumb slid the leather loop off the Colt's hammer. His partners fanned out a little, testing angles. I could feel the ranch hands behind me shifting, nervous but ready. The dogs were growling low, hackles raised. I don't like repeating myself, I said, voice flat. The man chuckled. Pretty wife, heavy debt. I think we'll talk to her ourselves. I didn't think. I moved. Steel cleared leather in a whisper and came up level with his chest. That froze him long enough for Boone, my foreman, to step up beside me with a scattergun resting casual on his shoulder. 2 more hands flanked the yard with rifles half raised. "Seems talk's done," Boone said. The man's horse danced sideways under his pull on the reins. "Easy," he muttered, eyes locked on me now, weighing odds. Finally he spat again, dark and mean. "Not worth blood before breakfast. But we'll be back. You try," I said, quiet but carrying. "And next time, I don't aim to warn." He snorted, yanked his horse around. And they thundered off in a spray of mud and dust. Silence held for a long beat after the hoofbeats faded. Boone let out a slow breath and muttered something about coffee. The men drifted back to chores. The dogs stopped their racket. I turned then. Evelyn stood very still, hands white-knuckled on her skirts, face pale but eyes fierce. "You all right?" I asked. She swallowed and nodded once. "You didn't have to, I did." We stared at each other a long time. She was trembling, just enough I could see it. I wanted to reach for her, but didn't. She broke first, stepping back and turning away, shoulders squared. Inside the house felt smaller. My father was finally at the doorway, face like carved stone. "Handled it," I said. "You just painted a target bigger," he said coldly. "Debt men don't scare easy." "Neither do I." His gaze cut to Evelyn and back. Something unreadable moved behind his eyes, then vanished. "Remember what you cost me. If you make enemies, you can't kill." I brushed past him before the poison in his voice could seep any deeper. By nightfall, the yard was quiet again. Lanterns glowed warm through the windows. I should have been sleeping, but found myself on the porch instead, hat pulled low. Listening to crickets and the slow creak of the rocking chair under me, the door opened, soft. Evelyn stepped out, shawled around her shoulders. She didn't look at me right away. "Thank you," she said finally. I glanced over. "Thought we weren't pretending, we're not." She hesitated, then sat on the other chair, careful space between us. "But thanks anyway." I nodded. Words weren't my strong suit. The silence stretched, but it wasn't empty. More like something alive, testing edges. Her hair caught the lantern glow, strands of dark against softer dark. She smelled faintly of rain and horses. "I didn't know they'd find me so soon," she said quietly. "I figured something like this would come." I sipped my coffee. "They'll keep coming?" "Maybe." She stared out into the night. "Depends how desperate they get." Something twisted in my chest. Anger, protective instinct, something that felt dangerously close to care. "Then we'll be ready." She looked at me then, really looked, like trying to decide if I meant it. Whatever she saw made her shoulders drop a little. We stayed there a long time. 2 unwilling partners breathing the same cool night air. For the first time, the knot in my chest loosened just enough to let me breathe easy. By midweek, she'd claimed corners of the house. Her sewing kit on the mantel, a stack of books by the window seat. I told myself it didn't matter, that it was still a business deal. But the place felt different. I kept catching her doing things I didn't expect. Fixing a broken fence post herself, hair tied back, sleeves rolled, hands sure. Riding out with Boone to check the north pasture without asking permission. Even cooking one-night cornbread that somehow tasted like home I didn't know. I'd missed. Each small thing chipped at the walls I'd built. And the looks. Not flirtation exactly, but quiet meeting of eyes across the yard. Like she saw me. Not Jedediah's heir. Not a pawn. Just me, one cold dawn, frost silvering the grass. I found her by the corral, watching the horses breathe steam into the morning. "You ride?" I asked. She smiled a little, shy but not weak. Taught myself. Keeps me sane. "Take the paint mare if you want." She's sure-footed, her brows lifted, surprised. "Thanks." We rode out that day. Just the 2 of us, miles of raw country under an open sky. The silence between us felt easier there. At one point, we stopped by a creek, horses drinking. She crouched to touch the icy water, face soft for once. "This land," she whispered, "it's cruel. But it's alive," I found myself saying, So are you. She glanced back quick, color rising in her cheeks. I regretted it, and didn't all at once. 2 nights later, trouble found us again. It started with smoke, faint at first, then thicker. Boone burst into the kitchen, eyes wild. Fire in the south hay barn. We ran wind, drove the flames hard, sparks jumping roof to roof. Men yelled, formed bucket lines, drove panicked cattle from the pens. Evelyn was right there in the thick of it, skirts tied up. Hauling water like a seasoned hand, a burning beam collapsed close, and I grabbed her back just in time. She gasped, eyes huge, face streaked with soot. "Stay back!" I shouted, "Not leaving you." She shot back, defiant and beautiful, even with ash in her hair. We fought until dawn bled pale over blackened ruin. Half the barn gone, but we saved the herd. Exhausted, I sank to a fence rail, chest heaving. Evelyn dropped beside me, hands blistered, hair wild. She looked at me raw, unguarded. "You could have let it burn?" "Not my way," I said. Her hand brushed mine, accidental maybe, but neither of us pulled away. Heat there, undeniable, terrifying and sweet all at once. Then voices and footsteps broke it. Neighbors bringing help, my father's booming anger carrying across the yard. The moment was gone, but it left something behind, a crack wide enough for hope. That night, lying awake, I realized the world I'd known was shifting. My father's grip, the debts, the fear, all of it still there, but dulled against something fierce and quiet growing in me. Her I didn't know if it was love. I barely believed in the word, but it was something strong enough I couldn't name it away. When I finally drifted off, it was to the sound of her moving softly in the next room. And for the first time since I was a boy, sleep felt safe. And maybe, just maybe, this forced life wasn't going to break me after all.